Hello, and welcome to TableTalk Friday, your weekly dose of D&D hosted by three boys in a bedroom. If you like their style, you can follow them on Instagram, YouTube, and other social media platforms. And now, back to the boys.
All right, boys. I feel like we shouldn't waste too much time today. We got a lot of meat and potatoes to get into. So, welcome to Table Talk Friday. I don't have anything to talk about outside of D&D today. No crazy cold open, nothing like that. My name is Seth Pittman, and I'm joined by my two friends, Andrew Romano and Zachary Carvon. How are you boys doing today?
Feeling tippity top of the morning over here. I just finished a really good one-off with an Englishman, so I'm feeling confident.
That's awesome, and I am so excited to talk about the news. I'm sure you all know what we're about to talk about because it's in the title of the episode.
Oh my God, 1D&D was dropped on us this past week. We got so much new information on what's coming up for D&D in the next 2 years, and it, like, quite literally, this is what, a month, 2 months after we dropped our wish list episode, and it's literally exactly what we wished for in our wish list episode. Like, we wanted reworked original core rule books because of all the rule changes we've gotten over the past few years, to simplify it for newer players. Now, I'm sure we have plenty to talk about, to be happy about, and to complain about, because I definitely have a couple of things on my mind that I'm both happy with and not too happy with, but where would you guys like to start for 1D&D?
Well, just to get everyone in the audience up to speed, in case you haven't heard, this is the new initiative for D&D. They're calling it 1D&D. It sounds like they're... the way that it's been described is this is the new version of D&D that will exist forever. That they're saying we're doing away with editions. This is just what D&D is now. First of all, that's weird to me. And they're saying this is not a new edition. All of your 5e stuff will be compatible with this new version. But it sure sounds a lot like a new edition to me.
Well, and I'm going to say the we're not doing any more changes is BS. New writers will come in the next 20 years or so, 15, 20 years, and they'll say, we have some rule changes we want to make, and they'll do it again. It's always going to happen no matter what. I mean, you get older, you change things, new people come in, people retire, and things are always going to be changing. So I do call BS on this is the last edition change we're ever going to see, but it basically brings forward like a 5.5e. It's not a brand new edition because all of your old supplements and stuff work. We're still using the same core rule set, right? That we roll d20s the same way, we use them for the same things, we make the same calls, and we have the same spells and whatnot. It's just some general rule changes here or there and some just little tweaks that make this like another layer of 5e on top of what we already know.
Right. So we weren't around when 3rd edition had 3.5e, but this sounds, to my understanding, fairly similar to that. And so moving forward, we're not going to see like a whole edition change because it seems like this new version is very much based in, there's advantage and disadvantage, and all the trappings of 5e are still there. But there are some pretty essential changes that we're already seeing already, and in the playtest material that they've released, that it brings up some interesting questions. And in general, I'll just give my base thought up front. I'm very tentatively excited about this new direction. I'm just hoping that we stick the landing.
I have some... excuse me. I have some serious hope that this, 5.5 sort of edition that we're going into, which is sort of what it feels like to me, is kind of the actual structure of where we're going. I know they said they're not going to make any changes, like you were saying, Seth. I don't think that's true. There will be more changes, but I hope it at least remains very similar to what they're doing. Because as players that have been playing for so many years now, I'm concerned that some of the new changes they may implement after this 1D&D that's supposed to unify everything will start kind of outcasting a lot of these older books. Like, we've invested a lot of money in our player handbook and Mordecai and Summa Foes and Fizzbands and the Dungeon Master Guide. Will these things still really be relevant? Because they say they will, but with all these updates, I'm concerned that the changes might be too great to even look back at the old stuff.
Well, and so I think we're sort of just to give everyone context, we did start with 5th edition, and so I think we're probably going through something that older D&D players have been so familiar with, and it happens all the time. And so I'm, not to say it like this, but I think we're losing our virginity.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think all those older players that I hear are still playing 3.5, or tables that are still running 4th edition if they really like that. I think we're about to hit the divide where all the people that we're playing D&D with right now are going to have to make a decision on what elements to take of the new edition, and what elements to keep from before, and how to marry those two things. We're going to get into some of the changes here in a minute, but I don't know. Like, I've never been one to homebrew. Like, our table is very much, well, we're going to use rules as written, as long as it suits our table. But I think we might be seeing a shift where there are some things that we start house ruling a lot more.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I couldn't have said it better. I was thinking the exact same thing, where I was like, I know we've invested a lot of time and money. That's just the name of the game, man. Like, whenever this comes along, like whenever I buy my books, I know that by next year they could have announced 6th edition at any time. They could be like, yep, we're dropping 5e, we're done. That could have happened at any point, and I was always okay with that. It's like putting money in stocks or something like that. At any point, the U.S. dollar could be worth a cent, and now it's like, okay, well, I tried my best. All that money's gone. So I kind of did the same thing with this, where I was like, I know buying, Tasha's or Rime of the Frost Maid and anything like that, it could be irrelevant if they announce a new edition. And I'm actually, I knew it was going to happen at some point, that we were going to find this updated version of what we already know. And I'm glad that, I'm cautiously optimistic that everything that I have invested up to this point is not irrelevant. That what we do have still available to us is, as they say, still going to be perfectly usable.
Yeah, and so I'm going to be honest, I'm excited for, more future content, but there's a lot of 5e that we haven't gotten to yet. Like, I still want to run Rime of the Frost Maiden, or, be in a part of that campaign in some, way, shape, or form. I want to see Tomb of Annihilation and Out of the Abyss, and maybe we'll even do, a revised version of Horde of the Dragon Queen, Rise of Tiamat, just because those are, essential 5e moments that I think we haven't experienced yet. But as we, move into the new, we're going to have to start, making some calls about what we use.
And we've already been doing that, because I had to tentatively choose. I wanted to run Rime of the Frost Maiden for a little bit, and I was like, well, they're announcing Spelljammer, and I need a little break from high fantasy, which we've been doing for so long. I was like, okay, Spelljammer seems like a nice break, because I'm very passionate about sci-fi. So we're going to have whether we've already released the Spelljammer episode or whether it's coming out soon, we'll have plenty to say on that. But we've already run into that problem, so that's not something I was ever concerned with. But what I would like to get into is what did we see of 1D&D already? So we've got the Unearthed Arcana, which is a lot of new rules, reworked races, different ways that backgrounds and such work, and then we also got the entire video laying out what they plan to do by 2024, which included a new virtual tabletop software, which they haven't actually named or done anything with, the combination of digital and physical bundles that they'll be selling on D&D Beyond. Very nice. Love to see that. And wanting to have everything in one coherent space for you. I'm very excited about the software they're saying they're going to put out, because in my mind, the best way I could see it work, and Wizards, I know you're listening to this, and I need to see this happen for me to be very excited, is I'm down to spend money on your microtransactions and your little the minis that I can get on there, because one day we're not going to be able to play in person as much anymore, and I'm going to need a cool virtual tabletop to go off of. So I'm putting in front of you, I love my physical minis. If you can just sell me, put a QR code on the box or something that I can scan on D&D Beyond, so that way every time I buy some minis, they pop up in that digital space too, I would be forever grateful, because then I will continue to hoard my money into your bank account. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and so, again, all of these changes are currently slated for 2024, so we still have a good year and a half at least.
Oh yeah,
before
for our Spelldreamer campaign.
Yeah, before we see any of these, things become codified in official material. But I'm not the most excited about the heavy focus on D&D Beyond, and I may have expressed this before. I'm just not a big fan of the UI of the website. It's never felt super intuitive to me. The way information is presented is very confusing.
Everything costs $1 million.
Yeah, everything costs $1 million. You're not exactly sure what's official and what's not. It's not the way that I want
the app
to
is
express.
horrible. The way the app looks too is not very presentable. At the moment, I think they'll have to do some serious reworking if they want me to use that fully as a DM.
Yeah, so currently I'm physical media all the way. A virtual tabletop might be nice. I've been eyeing Tailspire for the longest time for how cool it looks. So
somebody get their trumpet and play taps.
Yeah. It sucks for that because Tailspire looks awesome. Honestly, if D&D's official product that they come out with isn't better than that, then I imagine we'll probably look to that first.
Yeah,
But,
I think that or a tabletop simulator type deal are always the best options right now. Just because, and maybe we'll do an episode on how you do a virtual game at some point, even though we are noobs at that. We've been playing in person all day for our entire lives, and by all our entire lives, I mean the last 4 years.
I will say I have a lot of faith going into this new software on D&D Beyond, right? Excuse me again. I think a lot of D&D players struggle to play online.
I just wanted to do that in the mic.
Is that diet caffeine-free Pepsi?
No, this is just diet. It's Pepsi Zero Sugar. The diet caffeine-free that I purchased after our last anniversary episode is back at the house.
Not sponsored by Pepsi, but Pepsi, if you want to hear us open your bottles, open your cans into the microphone,
give it to us for free because I'll do it for that.
Yeah, exactly. Hit us
will
up.
sell out.
It'll save me
tabletalkfriday@gmail.com.
$6 every week.
Yeah.
that I spend on Pepsi products.
Again, that's tabletalkfriday@gmail.com. You know where to find us.
You were making me think of being able to scan things into this software. It'd be cool if you could just scan anything into it. Like your Pepsi.
I scan the barcode on my
Yeah.
Pepsi bottle and it pops up in my virtual tabletop. They've 3D modeled every product available on the internet.
I want my minis to hold different sodas and be like a soda mage. You could throw orange soda for different types of magic for fire magic, or grape soda for sort of arcane.
That reminds me of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands when she accidentally drops the Cheeto on the board and it blocks off the next area you have to go to, so you have to clear up the Cheeto, and she's like, no, that's a meteor. That's a meteor. It's so funny.
You pull up on the town, and then there's skeletons attacking. The town,
The best moment in the whole
automatically
game.
in a second, is just covered in skeletons. There's brimstone coming from the skies.
I'll tell you, dude, the Borderlands humor does not always get me, and I find it to be just mindless fun sometimes, but there are just some hit moments. Every 2 hours, one moment hits me where I'm like, that's good.
It's a pretty quality game.
Yeah.
But I do want to jump back into this D&D Beyond thing just for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a lot of faith going into this new software because there's a lot of people worldwide that are playing D&D that really struggle with doing these online games, including all of us here in this room. I think most people would agree that Roll20 pretty universally is probably the best option for playing online. The problem is it's not a great option for
It
playing
doesn't feel
online.
like an at-the-table game. It
Yes.
doesn't feel like that.
It's a
an
big struggle.
online game. It feels like it.
Especially for people that play mostly physical. We have our books. We know what pages to turn to get to our backgrounds, or where to find the equipment, or the wizard class. We know where to go, and it's very habitual at this point. So to now go online and use Roll20 where there's all these different categories, or even D&D Beyond, where D&D Beyond, from what I could tell, it actually has a lot of information in it, but I find it very difficult to access, and especially for newer players that don't know what they're doing, it's very difficult to navigate the site and find out what's happening. And like Zach was saying, to find out what's real, there's a lot of homebrew stuff on there now.
And did you know that you can't even properly edit your character sheet on there? If you add homebrew stuff in, most of the time they only let you select from the list of actual official stuff. So you can't go in there and just hey, I've got this cool magic item. You can't type that out on there. You got to have it separate. Really? So there needs to be a way to just edit your character sheet or add a page or just type up something of your own, or like copy and paste, I don't know, something to make it more friendly to people who have homebrew content, because right now it's very much stapled down to, hey, you got a +1 sword, click the +1 sword button and you got that, but you have a +1 sword that also knows shape water, that's not on there.
Now, I think playing physically, a bigger problem for me, and I'm going to say specifically for Zach, because I've seen how small he writes out his character sheets, there's not a ton of room for...
A talent, honestly.
It is.
Thank you. It's a shame that I can't see, so I have to hold my character sheet up in front
Seen
of
him
me.
do it many times.
Yeah, pull down my glasses. Oh, what does that say? Oh, it's 1,800, no, 1,600 gold worth of diamonds. That's what's on there.
But there's a lot of, especially now, the more we grow through this one D&D process, there's more and more things that we're going to have to put in this character sheet. So when you go online, and I think it builds your character sheet for you for the most part. I don't think you have to fill all of it out. I think you go through the steps and it does it automatically. There's just too much going on. For these items, maybe there's a way that they don't even have to go on the sheet. For us at our table, recently we invested in like magic item cards and monster cards. Is there not a way on D&D Beyond, and maybe there is, I haven't done too much exploring, to just click, I have this item, maybe even type it in if it's homebrew, and it gives you almost like a side little card that you can have, so it's not on the sheet, but almost as like a side deck, if you will. Maybe something like that would be of assistance. I don't know.
I said, just letting you add a page of just blank lines to type would be fine.
Right. So that's sort of the issue, is it's not built out with like a creative viewpoint in mind. You can upload, your own homebrew stuff and add it to the catalog, but it's not a tool for DMs to give things out to their players. It's very much you're jumping into D&D Beyond and using the hive mind of everyone else or official material. You're not using your own stuff.
And given the menial amount of lore or world building and lore they've been providing in these like most recent books, I need space to put things. Like, if I can't make it myself in this material, then fine, yeah, I am going to have to open up Google Docs and type it all out.
Right. So at that point, I find it easy enough to, or you can use other third-party products like World Anvil if you're a DM and you want to.
There are some great character sheet makers out there that I've used before for making pre-built ones.
Yeah, 100%. So,
but yeah, based on what Chris Perkins was saying in the video, he was like, we want it all to be in one space. Well, hopefully it will be. I think he's the one that said that. Maybe it was one of the other guys.
Maybe Jeremy. Who's to say?
Yeah, they were saying we want it all to be in one space. We don't want DMs or players to have to open up a million different apps, which is what I do right now, where it's like, okay, I've got the 5th edition character sheet maker on my phone. I've got Google Drive opened up. I've got YouTube opened up. I've got everything all over the place for my D&D stuff. Granted, I run my sessions based on, you guys have seen me just open up my phone and I run my whole session based off of that.
Yeah.
But, and it would be nice to only have one app instead of a million different tabs I'm going through to do that. Does it matter that much because I only use 2 paragraphs of notes? No. But would I like it? Yes. I want everything to be in one place.
Yeah, and so I can imagine if we're building this new system from the ground up with D&D Beyond in mind, then we might see it becoming a much more viable hub for future content. So we'll see how that goes. But currently, I'm not sold, and I like my D&D in physical media. So.
Yeah. So granted that we are shitting on D&D Beyond a lot, I'm cautiously optimistic that with this whole one D&D thing and Wizards owning D&D Beyond now, that we'll see a lot of changes by 2024.
I'm excited to see how many changes actually come our way, because with so much change, there's a lot of risk to lose a lot of good features.
Which lets us segue easily into some of the rule changes we saw in our first Unearthed Arcana for 1 D&D.
Yeah, so what we're currently exposed to, they're taking the 3 core rule books, the Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, and Dungeon Master's Guide, and updating all the rules in there. We really don't have any information about what's going into the DMG and the Monster Manual, though I imagine we'll probably see some of the changes that we were a little hesitant on in Monsters of the Multiverse coming back in the Monster Manual, which not super excited for that. But what we do have is an Unearthed Arcana, just playtest material surrounding character origins. So we don't have any information about classes, but we do have basically just your races, your background, and then some rule updates.
A lot of these character origin changes I am thrilled about. Especially the reworks we're currently getting on backgrounds. Now, currently the way it works when you make your character is you get your modifiers based on your race, and you get just a couple little flavor abilities and stuff based on your background. That's kind of being flipped over on its head, where your race itself doesn't give you your direct buff, but your background is now going to add your modifiers. So whenever you actually roll your stats, what you get a +2 and +1 in is more based on your background, which...
That's to say the ability score modifiers.
Yeah, the ability score modifiers, which makes so much more sense. If I was a dwarf who was, a magic based, why would I have, say, a +2 to con? I would more have a +2 to like my intelligence or something like that. Like I used to be an acolyte. I'm a dwarf acolyte, not a dwarf like carpenter or something like that. And what they're doing really well, after what I looked at in the Yarnith Arcana, is they are pushing you to create your own backstory, your own background, and they give you a selection of sample backgrounds. They don't say, hey, these are the backgrounds you have to choose from. They say, these are samples of what you could do, but we urge you to just go ahead and make your own, which lets you choose from a variety of abilities, lets you add a feat of your choice at that point. If you're creating your own background, you're choosing your own feat, which is amazing. Everyone at level 1 could be starting with a feat, which just adds a little bit of extra like pizzazz to the character, a little bit of flavor outside of, oh yeah, I was a farmer. Well, if you're a farmer, you also have this feat to go along with it, and this is why I'm helpful to the party, right?
Yeah, so just to cut you off there, a feat at level 1, that's a new feature except for variant humans in the player's handbook.
Yes.
No other characters would be getting first level feats. We have seen it creep in a little bit in Strixhaven. They had their setting specific feats for their backgrounds, and now Spelljammer also included 2 new backgrounds that come with a feat at level 1. What are our thoughts about that?
I love it. You can go ahead, Drew, if you have thoughts. I love the idea of feats at level 1 only because I have not. I hate starting you guys at level 1. At this point, I extremely dislike starting you guys at level 1 because there's not enough to make it interesting. And yeah, I have no problem with power in games. Like, you guys know that if there's an item written in that seems a little too powerful, or someone rolls a D100 and you get a legendary Horn of Valhalla that'll summon 20 berserkers, I'm gonna shrug my shoulders. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and go, ooh, that seems a little too strong. I'm just gonna shrug my shoulders and go, I'll figure it out. And given that I'm kind of lenient and lax like that, like, I just like the dice to do what they do, because it's really interesting and it makes the game, not just a storybook. Then I like the idea that I can come to you guys and say, make an interesting level 1 character, and now you have more options to do so. You're not just taking the 5 things that a wizard gets at level 1, like, oh, I really want to play a wizard. You're not just taking those 5 things and saying, all right, now you could be a wizard with like the tough feat or something, or like a wizard with a little bit of artificer experience. So you're actually an inventor as well, and can cast like 1 extra spell. It makes a lot more sense. It makes it feel more palatable to start you guys at level 1, because whenever we end up doing our next campaign, like next year, I'm still probably going to start you guys at level 3 because we don't have enough rules for that yet. Maybe I would do level 1 if enough playtest material came out, but I kind of want it to be official when we're doing like a long-term campaign, so I'll wait for probably the new like rule book before that happens. So yeah, I like that you guys can be more creative with your level 1 stuff, and really, honestly, a lot of people choose variant. Like, you guys are only playing variant human so often because you have a specific build with the feat in mind. This pushes you to play other races.
Yeah, 100%. And so I'll say, I know there's a lot of concern about power creep when you give every character a feat at first level. It gives the potential for, overpowered characters. But I think with the direction that we're headed and, new official material, say in the monster manual, and the corresponding rules and updated classes, I think we're going to see a D&D where of course all these things are taken into account when we're designing future adventures and monsters and how powerful they should be versus the players. But we're also going to see just a lot more interesting freedom of choice on the player side. So I think new players especially, you look at okay, well, what's my class? All right, well, I'm just going to play that. I'm a rogue. Okay, so I'm sneaky. I steal from people. That's my thing, right? But by giving a feat, which the feats are limited in this Unearthed Arcana, so it's not any feat, but it's an appropriate feat of a power that won't, make a first level character super, super strong. But it lets you add some flavor to your character. So say, okay, I'm a paladin, but I used to be a criminal, and I can speak thieves' cant, and also, I've got a feat to sort of supplement that
maybe you have
background.
the skilled feat. You're proficient with thieves' tools. You get something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it gives you the freedom to say, okay, well, even though I'm choosing this class, I can have the flavor of a more fully fleshed out character when I start. And currently in 5th edition, the way that it's set up, the only way to get that sort of flavor is, like we said, with Variant Human. You can choose a feat at first level, or you can multi-class and take multiple classes to build your character up. But that doesn't work for like a multifaceted character at first level. We even had this same thing happen in Storm King's Thunder, where I said, okay, I know I want to be a sorcerer paladin, but we started at first level, so I could only be one or the other. Well, I didn't want my character to randomly come upon sorcerer powers at second level. That didn't seem like it was, a very well thought out, fleshed out backstory. So we had to sort of fudge it and say, well, my character's, he's guarded about his sorcery powers because he's been spurned about it in the past. He doesn't want people to know. So he didn't reveal it until he hit second level that he had that power. So, yeah, it removes the need for that.
Now you could start with Magic Initiate, have a spell from the Sorcerer's Spell list, and go along with that.
Exactly. So I think in general, definitely a positive change, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. Also, with the focus on background versus your race, giving you some of your more important features, I think that makes this whole change to ability scores a lot more palatable for me. So in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, we sort of said, we're going to divorce your ability scores from your race. Now you just pick whatever you want. In my mind, I'd been playing D&D for so long where the ability scores were tied into your race that it took a little bit of, getting over it before I fully embraced that change. But with this, I feel like it makes a lot more sense to say, okay, well, you get your ability scores and your feat and your background features. It's all custom made to what kind of character you are. So the race will give you, inherent, if I'm a dwarf, I've got my dwarfisms, but those don't define who I am. It's just an aspect of my background.
I think those are all really good points. I love the changes that are coming. I like that they're putting more importance on the feats and the backgrounds, specifically the feats, because I love them. I think they are super cool. They're a great flavor to your character. They give you a lot more options, right? But I do have a couple concerns about both these things. My worry is with starting off with a feat, right? Especially with all these new classes, these new spells that they're coming out with, everything that's changing, I feel like power creep could be an issue. I feel like this game might become too easy for the players if there's too many options. Think about the amount of opportunities they have for synergy amongst multi-classing or whatever it may be. At our table, I feel very, very strong. I feel like we mow over a lot of encounters, and they're difficult, but they're difficult because we have a good DM that makes them difficult for us. We have a DM that's able to do that. For a newer DM, they may not know how to counter 3 party members with tough because they started with that background that gave them tough, which basically doubles their hit points, right? I think that could be an issue, so I'd like to see more, but also with the greater importance on these two things, there are already fundamental flaws with those systems, right? Out of the feats, we've talked about this, we've done an entire episode on feats, there's a lot of them that they're just not very good. They don't compare to a lot of the better ones, right? We have Sentinel, which is crazy good, right? We have Tough, super good. Things like that, or Sharpshooter, Great Weapon Master. All these are very, very strong feats that people like to see. But if we're going to be putting more importance on these things, we have to fix the ones we have. Like Grappler needs to get fixed. keen mind.
Well, realistically, we're getting a whole new book that's probably going to rework a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and so thank you. That brings up an awesome point, which is now feats are being presented as tiered. So each feat has a level associated with it. So the way that the feats are listed, we've only got the first level feats, which doesn't mean that there are necessarily like prerequisite feats to get later feats. That sounds a lot like a feat tree from third edition. As far as I understand, that's not the direction we're headed. But you're only going to be able to get feats of a certain power level at a certain level. So for
Like Eldritch Invocations.
yeah, exactly. So for feats like tough, where yes, it's a very beneficial feat, but ultimately it's just giving you a +2 to your health. If you take that at first level, that's only +2 hit points. That's nothing. That's a nothing feat at that point. But it grows with you as you level up, and then later you'll get access to things that might give you an extra ability score increase, or give you extra attacks in combat, things like that. So I think that this is a smart decision to sort of yes, we're giving you a feat at level 1, but it's going to be of a certain power, and it's really there just to help you define your character and not make you too overpowered. So I think, and we'll definitely see more as they give us more feats to play with. But in general, I don't think any of the feats that they've presented are bad. But it also it helps to take away that issue where, as a player, when I'm selecting my feat, I look through so many feats and say, oh, well, that's doo-doo ass. Why would I ever take that when I could take this other feat instead? Well, now that other feat isn't available to me at this level, so let me give another look to all the feats that I would, not even think about before.
And let me tell you, Wizards, whenever you come out with this feat list that's in your book, I hope to see it organized in a way where my first level feats are there in alphabetical order, right? All my first level feats are in one section. It's not like first, fifth, third, seventh. I want to see them like layered one on top of another in level order. It's such a pain to me to go to a list and it's like, okay, the actor feat is right here. That's a first level feat. And then we're going to go to the brawler feat down here, a second level feat. And it's going to go now, the next one's fifth level and so on and so forth. That's kind of how the new monster manuals are, which bothers me, where everything is in alphabetical, but I would like it to be alphabetical by type of monster like it used to be, because I was reading the new Spelljammer book, and there's a monster in there where it's like, hey, this monster is heavily related to this monster. See this monster on this page. And I'm like, no, why isn't it right next to this one?
Yeah, exactly. Or like there are multiple types of dragons, but you wouldn't know that because it's separated by
there's amethyst dragon,
yeah,
and then there's green dragon.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no. So anyways, back to 1D&D. I'm liking what I'm seeing with the backgrounds. I like the level 1 feats. Drew, I know you're concerned with power creep. You talked about that a lot. I would like to assuage your fears a little bit because I have faith in the other people that aren't just me that are DMing out there. That whenever, some people are just running exact by the book encounters, and hopefully in the future with the power creep, if you're running Lost Minds of Phandelver right now and using these new characters, it might be a little easy, if you're doing it exactly as written. I'm hoping, and I believe in other DMs to the point where I think they'll recognize that. And like, okay, I'm trying to run Lost Minds of Phandelver right now, but I'm using a 1D&D character, and I'm going back to this, and now the first Cragmaw Cavern is a little too easy for me. I'm going to add 3 or 4 extra goblins, or I'm going to make the boss, instead of this goblin boss, this other goblin boss. I wouldn't worry about it so much just because the amount of creative elements we get to see. Like, I love, the Clockwork Sorcerer to death. I think it's one of the coolest concepts, and it's pretty powerful too. You get to control a lot of my roles with that Clockwork Sorcerer. I find it super fun and super cool, and even though I'd say it's more powerful than some of the older the Wild Magic Sorcerer, it's much more powerful than that. If I was to see that in like a Lost Minds of Phandelver, I would just simply adjust for it. And I think that is a more basic adjustment that a DM would have to make is, okay, I'm just going to add a couple extra creatures here. And realistically, especially with those newer DMs, it is their first time doing a campaign or something. it will be a learning experience when you hurt the party too much, and when you make it too difficult, it'll be a learning experience that gets the DM to grow a little bit more. And you're going to have to do that anyways, whether there's power creep or not. But yes, I do agree. Everything is becoming more powerful. I just really like it.
Yeah, and so I'll say to that, I don't mind a little bit of extra power out of the gate for a first level character, because I have heard and seen at my table more than once, you start at first level, everyone expects that's where you begin, and, a character gets crit and dies immediately because they're just a lowly little first level character, and that player says, oh, this game sucks, I'm never playing it again. So giving you just a little bit more survivability and like a little bit more power at first level, even not just survivability, but options for things you can do. Like a first level base fighter, not even variant human, they can do one thing and one thing only in any combat. That's so boring. So I like the idea of giving more options just to low level characters, because honestly, we've said it already. We like starting at third level because the first two levels kind of suck.
Yeah, they're boring. Go ahead.
I agree completely, and I love this feature. I am very much so looking forward to it. I just think that there are definitely some concerns. With all these options coming out, I think it's fantastic. Power, give it to me, please. I want to be the most powerful wizard ever, and because that's what it should be. You should be a heroic adventurer that's able to steamroll over monsters, and with the power of friendship and teamwork, you could do anything, that kind of thing, right? But I'd like to see more options for the DM too. And I know they are reworking the Dungeon Master's Guide, as well as I think the Monster Manual, like you were saying.
Monster Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Player's Handbook. Yeah.
So if that's the case, with all this extra renowned power that all the players have, which I'm fond of, I would like to see the monsters also buffed up. I'd like for the creatures to maybe have some extra hit points, some new abilities, some different things that they can do to counter the players. Maybe the creatures get some sort of feat at a certain level or CR or something. But I just think the DM needs to have a couple more options as well. Not that
there's a reason that half the monsters I get are just ones I find online and screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that brings up an interesting point. So also included in this Unearthed Arcana are some new rules.
The crit rule, dude.
Yeah, so I think it's time we bring this up because it's a bit of a doozy. So it's originally in the Player's Handbook, crits apply anytime someone rolls a 20 on the D20, making an attack roll. That goes for weapon attacks, spells that use an attack roll, anything. That's no longer the case, so far. So this is probably the most controversial rule that I've heard, and I imagine it's going to not going to be there for the final release. I'm definitely gonna submit my survey when it goes live on September 1st, and you should too, so that Wizards agrees with me that this is a bad idea. So only players now can get critical hits. Additionally, spells cannot crit. It's only weapon attacks, and it's only the weapon's damage dice that gets rolled twice.
Yeah.
That is the lamest shit that I've ever heard. Critical hits need to make everyone at the table, scream in, uproarious applause. Like a paladin who gets a crit now, they're going to get that one, their D8 on their longsword is going to get rolled twice. And if you get 2 1s, it feels worse than a regular attack.
Yeah, I don't. We have our special crit rule, which is we just take the max because it is so cool to get like that one critical hit where it's just a massive blow to whoever gets hit by it. I love that rule. I did hear there was an interview, I don't remember who it was with, one of the guys who's writing D&D, and they said that there are going to be more inclusion of, especially in higher level or in more, boss type monsters, more recharge abilities, which are basically like the DM choosing to crit, like a breath ability for the dragons, a lot more things like that, or like with the Narzugon, where I was hitting you guys heavily with those rays one after another, or it was like the orb or whatever. But
the death orb.
Yeah, the death orb. the way that those are working, there's going to be more abilities like that included, which would make the monster very powerful already instead of being able to crit on top of that. Again, not saying it's super justified. I love crits and will always include them for monsters and players, because if we're saying monsters can't crit, then yeah, if monsters can't crit, then my players are doing less crit damage, because I want there to be the same balance there. If it's because then again, you're taking power away from my monsters, and I want the hit from the monster that when I roll in front on the table and it is a natural 20, for everybody to be like, oh shit. I want that moment. I don't want it to be oh well, he can't crit us anyways, so we just got that crit, monsters lose. No chance.
Right. And ultimately D&D is about the luck of the roll. There's always a chance that something bad could happen. If the monsters are always going to consistently, I mean, even in the monster manual, there's the option to take the average damage for each hit. I don't want monsters to be that predictable. Then it starts to feel like a video
damage
game.
every time.
Yeah,
Done.
Exactly. Like if there's not a chance for
this
me
isn't
to get
Pokemon.
crit, yeah,
or Final Fantasy,
and we've been whittling him down. I know roughly how many hit points he has. I'm not gonna feel any tension at the table because there's no chance that we can lose if the only person who's gonna get a crit is me.
Yeah. Additionally, you can go ahead, Drew, if you had something.
So I expect, I absolutely expect this to go away. I'm going to stand firm and say that I'm absolutely against this change, completely and entirely. And if they keep it, I will not be using it at my table. And I don't think either of you guys probably would either. I know they are using some sort of variant inspiration rule now with your D20s. But to me, the inspiration rule, even if your enemies get some sort of inspiration they can use against you, that to me is not intimidating enough. I want at any point in time during the battle with some sort of crazy epic dragon or something, I want there to be at least a small chance of death or defeat, right? Otherwise, there's no risk, there's no chance. I want to be fighting there. I want to feel like, maybe we're on our last legs in a fight and he's going to get his recharge ability back in a turn. We need to either teleport out of here or do something so he doesn't do that again. We cannot get hit. There needs to be more of that tension. So I'm excited to see what they do. I'd like to see more recharge abilities, but specifically with the no crit rules, I don't know. I'm not for it.
Additionally, while we're on the topic of crits, I will bring up this piece of information as well, which may come as a surprise to some tables because I know a lot of people rule it this way already, but they are putting it into the official rules for rolling a nat 1 and a nat 20. If you roll a nat 1 on any check, regardless of any modifiers applied to it, it always fails. We do rule this way for the most part for, saving throws, ability checks, attack rolls. But inversely, rolling a 20 on the D20 always succeeds, regardless of if it's a saving throw, ability check, etc. And that's something that I know a lot of players do and a lot of tables do, and they do include a specific call-out that the DM determines whether, rolling the D20 is even necessary. But I feel like you sort of put the DM in a corner by saying that this must be the case. Say if a player, we've all had that person at the table. Can I roll for this? Can I roll for that? And, they just keep testing. Eventually, they say they want to do something stupid, and you don't have a chance to tell them no before they roll. They get a nat 20, and then all of a sudden there's an argument because, well, what do you mean I can't seduce the dragon?
Yeah, I mean, there are specific situations. The one I always like to bring up is when you're dealing with the devil and you are talking to it. Sometimes you just cannot convince a devil to do something it doesn't want to do.
Yeah,
so,
the devil's not going to be, turned to good.
But I still might have you roll persuasion when talking to the devil, just for suspense sake. What if we can convince it? And so if I tell you, if I say no, there's no need to roll. Now there's no suspense. Now you can't pass. It's fun for you to have the rest of that conversation and it to, even though you rolled a natural 20, still argue with you and try to debate. I find that builds more tension. It's like, oh, this guy means business. Even when I'm at my best, I cannot get one over on him.
Yeah, and so if we expect every nat 20 to end in success, that's going to end up with a lot of DMs who sort of get pushed into a corner. when you want to make those those calls like that.
Yeah, and it's only with specific things. Most of the time, when you roll a nat 20, it is going to be successful. But say I'm trying to talk down a political intrigue case, and the king will not take no for an answer. I mean, even if you roll a natural 20 on persuasion, like you can't change someone that easily just by saying a couple of words and rolling a die.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of opinion on this one. I think it kind of ties into what we were talking about already, which is the players are getting more and more and more options and more opportunities to do all of these things, yet in the same breath they're saying, oh, DMs, also you don't get to make this choice. This is what you have to do.
I'm all for player control, but you also have to RP the hell out of it. If you RP amazing and give me a very convincing argument and roll a nat 20, done. You've passed. But if you say a couple of words like, oh, are you sure about that? Maybe you should not behead the criminal. And then you roll a nat 20. That wasn't a very convincing argument. And then they behead the criminal and you're like, but I rolled a nat 20. It's like, well, you didn't give him a proper reason.
Yeah, and I didn't ask you to.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be an automatic success. We won't be using it that way. Likewise, I do think that there are some skills you're just proficient enough in that a nat 1 will automatically make you fail.
Right.
If you're a professional thief, you're going for a mundane lock or something like that, like to lockpick it, and you have like say a plus 12 and it's a DC 10 on the lock, I'm still gonna let you pass even if you roll a nat 1. I'm gonna have you roll because it's interesting enough that like you might roll a nat 1 and I'll describe it in a funny way how you fuck it up, or like you still pass the check but you bent your lockpick, so now you need to spend a minute fixing it or something like that. That's interesting. That's fun. You still messed up, but you got the job done because you're a professional.
Right.
But you still passed the check. Now, I'm not going to have it automatically be like, nah, you can't make it through the DC 10 door because you rolled a natural 1. I'm going to describe it in a funny way of how you still pass because you are a professional and it's an easy lock.
Right. There's a certain point where it just doesn't make sense for the narrative of the game for you to fail on some things. Even when the game asks, well, yes, technically this DC is, set a certain way, but there's no feasible way that this character could fail unless I rolled a nat 1. It just doesn't make sense that, the 15th level rogue who's been doing this all along has never had a problem before. All of a sudden, he sucks now.
And that's why they give us the whole D20 test rules in there where it's like a 5 and a 30 or whatever. And
right. So they do specifically say that you can't set a DC for a check to be below 5 or above 30, which I think sort of goes without saying in a lot of cases, but it's interesting to see them set that hard line there.
Which is fine. I don't hate it, and I just think that some points in the game call for a roll even though it's not really warranted. There are some points when I'm going to call for one. Like, I'll have you guys call perception or roll perception checks, but I'll only do that to get everybody's focus in, I'll say, hey, can I have everybody roll perception? And even if everybody rolls below 15, I might still describe my situation just because now that everybody's rolled, they know they're all paying attention to something. Maybe some two players were, having a little conversation to the side, or like two of them weren't focused. Now that everybody's rolled perception, everybody's eyes are on me. We can continue.
That's a good hack. I didn't even notice that you do that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, now that I'm thinking back, you do that all the time.
Yeah, I have you guys roll perception checks to call attention to the next thing that's going to happen.
And I think it's fine. I think it builds a lot of tension there. It gives something at the table that kind of drags your attention and gets you back into play,
Yeah.
But on this topic, I really hate the idea of punishing your players for these ones, specifically when, like you were saying, the level 15 rogue, right? If you want to go even specifically into that, level 15 rogue would have reliable talent. Right, and I've used reliable talent before, and it's super fun.
Oh yeah,
because me knowing that I've been a thief for 20 years or something like that, right? I can roll a 1 to open a door, but if I have a plus 10, it becomes automatically a 10 plus 10. It's a 20 roll, right? So the idea that the DM could tell me I just rolled a 20 and it wasn't good enough to open this little rickety fence door or something, it's like, what do you mean? I'm a professional. I could do this. I could definitely do this. Just because I rolled a 1 doesn't mean I have to be punished and break all of my gear.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Which you could argue.
You try to open it, your bag catches on fire, you burn to a crisp, and that's a TPK.
Yeah,
your bag of holding falls inside your other bag of holding, and it sucks you all in, and you're done.
I would argue that it is, up to the DM's discretion whether or not to even ask that player to roll at that point, if it would be, an easy enough thing.
It depends on the situation. It's always an it depends answer, because if you're just going into like some random place, probably not warranted. But if you're still going through this haunted manor or something, it's like, final encounter type deal, or like you're going through a dungeon and you want that suspense to be built, have them roll. It's a case by case basis, I'd say.
Right. Well, and even, if I'm that player, I almost might feel that my DM is cheapening my experience by not letting me roll and add my plus 19 on that check. Like, I worked hard for this number. You're just gonna say I succeed automatically? I want to say that I got a 49 on that check.
Exactly. And that's
49.
How. Well, yeah. Could be.
Or a 39, maybe.
Okay, so we did get a couple of other things, and I don't want to run too long on just specifically these couple of little details. Other than those specific rule changes, is there anything major we need to get out before we talk about some of the racial reworks?
Well, I do want to, talking about rule updates, there's one thing that I've noticed that I haven't heard anyone else talk about yet that I think is bad, so I'm just going to bring it to everyone's attention, and that's the updates to the grapple system. And so we don't have full rules on grappling, but we do have updates to the conditions, grappled, and a new condition called slowed, and how they interact. This is poopy ass. I don't like it. So the change to the grappled condition, I actually like. So it does now when you're grappled, it does impact your attacks. So you now have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. That is a new feature. So that does give you some incentive to grapple like a specific target, because then they can't reasonably attack your friends or at least not as easily. So that makes sense to like pull aggro. Grapple as that sort of thing. You can also move just like normal, and rather than having you use your action to escape a grapple, now while grappled you can make a dexterity or strength saving throw, not an athletics or acrobatics check, against the grapple's escape DC at the end of each of your turns, ending the condition on yourself on a success. So I'm not sure what this means. So I think we may need some additional confirmation. It almost sounds like players won't be grappling at all, or maybe you'll have a grapple DC based on your, a certain ability score modifier. But I need some more information about that. I quite like the way that it works now, where it's an ability contest. I like that as a way to differentiate it from a spell or an attack. It's in that moment you two are trying to overpower one another. So do that. I think boiling it down to a saving throw makes it a little weird. And then also the fact that you don't have to use your action or any action to try and break out. It just happens automatically at the end of your turn. Also makes it a little weak. And then the additional part is if you are grappling a creature, you are slowed. It's specific to if you're moving a creature, you're slowed while grappling. So what that means is that you now have all attacks against you have advantage. Well, now that I read it again, I guess it's not that much of a problem. But
only
attackers,
if you're moving a creature.
Yeah. So like if you get an attack of opportunity, I guess that's not as bad as we thought it was.
I don't know if there's a need necessarily for this slowed condition. And I know it makes me think of the slow spell that does a very specific thing, which is very similar, but I just don't see a reason for it. If you're going to grapple, just keep the current wording that your speed becomes 0. I think it's very simple. You're not able to move. You're not able to, push forth. I don't see a problem with keeping it that way. I don't see a reason for this extra status effect.
Well, and so what the slowed condition does is you must spend 1 extra foot of movement for every foot that you move using your speed. So
basically halves your movement.
This is the grappler is slowed.
So if you're trying to move somebody, which I already do that, where you can move creatures, you're just halved movement.
Yeah.
Now it's basically making it so when you're moving, like say someone gets an attack of opportunity, since you're going slower, they get advantage on you.
And you have disadvantage on dex saves, which I imagine this condition will probably apply to a lot of spells that do something similar. So like Spirit Guardians, I'd imagine maybe you're slowed while in that effect, while you're moving through difficult terrain, you're slowed.
I like the slowed effect, personally. I agree, though. I don't want to think about it too hard until we know exactly what it means.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a weird tangent. I almost like it, but I really need to know how this grappling thing is going to be resolved.
We need more context for it makes sense. We just need more context.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't mind seeing grappling just be a little stronger. There's not a lot of players at the table that will grapple unless they're trying to go for that thematic play, which is very cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, especially the way it's written in the books, I know we have a homebrewed version of this where you can use your attack. I believe you have to use the entirety of your action to grapple somebody.
Do you normally?
I
believe you can use it
your
as an
whole
attack action.
I'd have to look at the player's handbook again. There are, I think, escaping a grapple uses your full action. I want to say that
grappling you can use as an attack. I believe.
Grappling is a part of the attack action, meaning that you could apply extra attack to it, and I'm pretty sure shoving works the same way.
Okay.
We might have to look at it again, though.
So even so, you're using one of your attacks to do this, right? Which most characters only have one attack, right? So if you want to talk about barbarians or fighters, so be it. You're still using one of your ways that you could cast a spell or deal some serious damage to immobilize somebody. So I'd like to see it worth it and them not just escaping immediately afterwards with this strength saving throw. I want there to be some oomph. There's a reason that you grapple,
Plus, I mean, your Harengon Black Widow grappler character would be super cool where, they jump over, they do the whole, jump on your head and, wrap their legs around thing and they're just beating the heck out of your face. Cool. Love that. Love that idea. I would like to get onto, because we're already running into 55-minute territory, onto the racial changes we see in 1D&D, because there are some... I honestly don't want to go in depth on every single change they made to each single person, but there are some notable ones. First of all, I want to talk about the coolest one to me, is they're adding a lot of these cool bonus action abilities into the newer books, which I love. I like the racial abilities mean something now. And, the elves get their cool, little blinks that when they get a bonus action, you can, kind of blink 30 feet. Love that. Great. It's like a little Missy step that elves get just innately. Very cool. Makes sense to me because they're fey creatures, so they can do this kind of, into the fey, back and forth type deal. The dwarves are finally getting a stone cunning that makes sense to me instead of just knowing things about rocks. As most dwarves don't know that much about rocks. I gotta say, I've never played a dwarf that knows a lot about rocks, and I don't think I ever will. So instead of hey, stone cunning, you know a lot about rocks. Now they get a bonus action that allows them to use tremor sense within 60 feet. So, as a bonus action, they can touch a rock or a stone nearby, and in that 60 feet of stone, they can tremor sense in that area, like Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And it's so cool. I love this. I believe you can use it proficiency bonus per day or something like that.
Yep, yeah, and so that's in line with a lot of the races that we were seeing in Monsters of the Multiverse,
exactly.
too. I agree. I think that this is it's an awesome change to give all races an active feature so that some don't feel... As we've gotten away from the original player's handbook, almost every race feels more fun to play because they have something special that they can do.
Yeah, and it's not even super powerful. Can you just imagine though, you're walking through the cave, there's a couple of torchlights on, but all of a sudden one big gust of wind comes through and it all goes out, and you guys all hear footsteps ambushing from either side, and your dwarf taps his hammer on the ground, tremor senses the area there, and just goes to town on these dark invisible enemies.
Yeah,
so cool.
100%. Or you're in a cave and you hear some rumbling in the distance. The dwarf puts his hand on the wall and tremor senses there's an Umber Hulk coming. What would have been a surprise round is now brace yourselves, and then we roll initiative.
Yeah, super cool. And a lot of our races are getting abilities like that. The half-orc and half-elf are no longer included in here, now replaced with the full orc and elf, and now they just say, hey, if you have two of these races combined, it could be any two, choose the abilities from one and flavor the look the other way. So hey, if you want to be a half-orc, choose either human or orc abilities, and then regardless of that, just make it however you want.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
So I do have just one thought about that. It's a tiny little thought. I'm gonna miss the half orc. I really.
I'll still
am.
let you play a half orc.
No,
Zach.
100%. I know. And I have to say, I'm overjoyed that the full orc is getting the player's handbook treatment, which
Yes.
it deserves. But we've had some good times. Like, I've still been... My first character ever was a half-orc, and I've been waiting for my campaign character that's going to go for, 15 levels at least. I've been waiting to drop that half-orc character, and now I got to do it for Spelljammer, or I'm not going to do it at all.
Well, and now you can just have you still get the orc dash and relentless endurance.
Yeah,
now.
so the current version of the orc is awesome. They're great.
Yeah.
But, I'm just going to...
Just the original one. It's very nostalgic, right?
Well, yeah, and then also Morwen, my most beloved character that I've made, was a half-elf. It's like
Yeah.
they're targeting... I like my half characters, I guess.
Well, now you can make a half tiefling, half orc character.
Yeah, 100%. There was a funny... it was in a interview with Jeremy Crawford and Todd Kenrick, I believe. They mentioned the pairing of a gnome and a goblin, a noblin.
A noblin.
So I do like opening that up. I mean, even Drew, you did your half Harengon character with the custom lineage from Tasha's.
Oh, that was so fun.
And now you can officially do that with a custom background and just completely make your character from the ground up really creatively and really cool. I love all the character creation stuff they've been providing here. All of the original races have kind of been buffed to be in line with what we have in Monsters of the Multiverse, which makes me very happy knowing that, okay, it is still viable for me to go back and choose just elf. I don't have to be an astral elf.
So with all these half options, where are we going, or if you guys know, with the Tasha's custom lineage option? Because I'm the biggest promoter of the custom lineage. I love it. It lets you flavor your character however you want for the most part. It has a step-by-step building process of how you want it, and it gives you that feat right off the bat. But since we're getting feats right off the bat anyway with this new stuff,
It's
is
the
it-
same
is it
thing.
plausible?
It's literally the same thing.
The custom lineage is
Is the
exactly
creative-
like the build your own
Oh,
background
okay,
feature.
okay.
in
Yeah,
here.
they're the exact same thing. So building your own background is the custom lineage, basically. You get to do the exact same thing.
Beautiful. That's what I like to hear. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited for some customization then. That'll be cool.
Yeah, I also like how the build your own background format matches every background's power level for each character.
Yeah.
I'll say, props to Wizards for everything presented in this UA. I think every character that you could make based on these given options would be around the same in power level. Because no backgrounds are giving you special, tool proficiencies or special things that other ones don't get. Now they all have the same level of power. You get 50 gold to spend how you want.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And then you pick one skill proficiency, I believe, one language, and then one feat. So it's all fairly homogenized. So I do like that. Additionally, in keeping with making all characters around the same power level, one thing that I'm of two minds about, and I don't know if you boys have seen it, but in the races, they've done away with the small races only having 25 feet of movement.
Yeah, everybody gets 30,
now everyone
right?
gets 30, except for wood elves that have their special 35 feet. I'm gonna be honest. This was one of the things that I did like about the Player's Handbook small races. I like having a character where you intentionally give them, well, I'm going to be a dwarf. It makes sense that, they're stocky, they have shorter legs. Yeah, they would naturally move a little slower. That's not to say all dwarves have that. You could take the squat nimbleness feat and get that extra +5, but it's a way to make your character stand out. For example, my current artificer dwarf, Oswin Alemaker, I've intentionally left him with 25 feet of movement because it makes for good role-playing moments when everyone's fleeing from the Cyclops riding the rock and they're throwing rocks at us, and then all of a sudden, shit, that cave mouth is 120 feet away. Some of us can get there fast, but Oswin can't. So what are we going to do?
Honestly, you said it. I didn't notice it, and it affects me not at all. I mean, I get it. I like it too. It's like, okay, 25 feet, a little more flavor. I think it simplifies it, just knowing you guys can move, the 6 spaces and then plus whatever else you want to do. It doesn't really affect me emotionally at all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree as well. So, and it makes sense because other small races, for example, like goblins and kobolds, they have 30 feet of movement. So,
right.
What makes dwarves and gnomes and halflings suck so much that they can't keep up? But
And who would actually choose in character creation? Because you can choose a small human or a medium human. Likewise with some of the other races, who would actually choose? Oh, I want to be small so I can have 25 feet of movement.
Yeah, and I can't hold heavy weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. No, so I agree with both of you. I love the 6 squares of movement. Just makes
Keep
things
talking.
easy.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom. I was gonna wait till the post show, but I can't.
So I agree with you both wholeheartedly. The 6 squares of movement is perfectly great. It's wonderful. It just makes everything simple and average overall, right? But Zach, like you, I really, really, really like when they have that one unique quirk, that one thing, that characteristic that kind of separates them just a tad bit. I'm also the type of player that really likes to have that one negative stat, though, just so that I could roleplay it well, like the low charisma. I know you've done the low charisma with a stutter before, or having like low intelligence so you could be a big dumb meathead kind of a thing. I love those things, and it really sets you apart from all the other players at the table because it gives you something. It's your thing, your niche. It's how you fill the party. So.
Right. I like the the design idea of, well, you have to, something's got to give, right? You can't have every stat be a 20. So how are you going to define your character's weaknesses, and how are you going to use those for role playing? So I like the extra power that's presented here, but that's just that's the inverse. Because all characters are so powerful, then there's going to be some issues.
Can you imagine actually trying to roleplay a character with all 20s? I feel like the only angle you could take is just be some sort of pompous, heroic demigod paladin, right? With all 20s and like, I am above all else. You cannot defeat me. Because you wouldn't have any quirks there. That would be the only thing you could do with that.
Yeah, it's a Superman character. You go Oath of Glory paladin, and you run in and you try and take care of everything for the party, and everyone's inspired by how awesome you are, right? But
man, well, I don't know how much time we have left.
What were we talking about?
So we were just talking about having all 20s in your character. The 25 feet of movement being that one quirk, having negative stats, and how it kind of helps benefit you as a player.
Yeah.
It makes you stand out a little bit at the table. But I know we're running very low on time. You guys want to talk about races. Is there any other race things you guys wanted to talk about?
yes,
Okay.
there's a new race. So we've removed half elf and half orc, but we do have a new feature to be included in the new player's handbook. This is a new race as far as I'm concerned. It's not been featured in any D&D material before that I know of, and that's the Ardling, which is sort of a half human, half animal, celestial being. The way it's been described is this race is the opposite of the tiefling. So to have a celestial and a abyssal or fiendish version of that same idea, they're both being included. I've got some thoughts about this, and honestly, it's just I don't love the animal, like the half animal characters in general, and including it in the player's handbook doesn't get me super excited. But the features here are interesting. So there are 3 different they call them lineages, I believe, or celestial legacies. That's what they call them.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So you can pick one. They each give you different traits. Mostly it's just spells. Tieflings get the same thing actually, and the different sub races for any race are divided up in a very similar manner. But their special thing is they get angelic flight as a bonus action. They can fly for their turn, and then at the end of their turn, it ends. So if they're still flying at the end of their movement,
Like
then
the
they
Dragon
fall.
Monk.
Yeah, exactly like that. They're okay. They have resistance to radiant damage. I'm just saying, if we needed an inverse version of the tiefling, it already exists. It's the Aasimar, and I love Aasimar, so I'm just a little lukewarm.
Here's
on this.
kind of what I have to say about him is, I get it. It's cool to add another race. It's interesting. I think honestly, if they're just gonna rework the player's handbook, I just kind of want the rework of the stuff that's in there. I don't really need an Ardling race or anything more to add. We already have so many races included. We already have so much stuff. Give me the Ardlings later when we have context for them. I don't need them right now. If you have a campaign and Ardlings are included or there's a way to work them in, that's fine. But I don't need another race whenever I take you guys into the yawning portal to explain. So it's just like, okay, you're clumping up a lot of things into one space, and we already have Monsters of the Multiverse. Includes so many new races and stuff, and, including animal-type races like shifters and...
Tabaxi.
Yeah, and Tabaxi. We've got all of these extra races added already. Now you've added an Ardling in, which is another weird animal-combined race that we're adding celestial powers onto. Likewise, now we have the reworked Tieflings, which are added in there. Drew, you have any thoughts on Ardlings?
They're fine. I think all these new races are very cool. I agree. I kind of want them just to go back to some of the old ones and update them in the player handbook. I'd like to see the human revised. I'd like to see the Ozma revised because it's a little too strong. That's about it. They're cool, but I have other things I have to play that I still haven't played in the years I've been playing D&D.
And you're going to be playing all new stuff when we go to Spelljammer, so...
It's too much stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, I mean, I could take them or leave them. The one significant issue that I have with any of these races, so I will mention humans now get inspiration on every long rest, and the rules for inspiration have been updated. There's also a feat that lets you pass out inspiration at long rest.
Basically just gives you advantage on a roll.
Yeah, so you can give yourself advantage, and you can only have one at a time, and they expire at the end of, if you take a long rest, you lose your inspiration. I think the idea there is to, give more options for players to, get inspiration and encourage them to use it, because it's definitely something that, we could say at our table included, it just sits on your character sheet and you forget it's there.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. We'll see how it goes. But the one thing that I'm pissed about in this whole race section is Dragonborn, which the player's handbook Dragonborn, we all agree, it's shitty, it's bad, I don't like it.
Breath weapons suck.
Yeah. So what we've done in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons is provide the chromatic dragon, the metallic dragon, and the gem dragonborn variations, all with their cool special features. They get a lot more power to bring them up to snuff with the rest of the races. Their breath weapon you can use as a part of your attack action. So if you've got extra attack, you can do a breath weapon and also attack in the same turn. We've done away with all of that. It's just like the player's handbook, Dragonborn, with the caveat that you don't have the distinction between line and cone breath weapons. Now they're all a 15-foot cone, and they do get dark vision. So that's neat. But boy, am I disappointed.
Yeah, I think at this point we would just end up using the Fizzbands ones still because they're more interesting. They're up to snuff with the other races. And I wouldn't call them any of them like overtly powerful.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I could see the reason to exclude Gem Dragonborn because that seems like a less standard option, but so are Ardlings. So
exactly.
I don't know. I'm a little disappointed about this now because with all these new changes, we're talking about new books becoming more compiled, having a lot of the stuff in the same book, the player handbook being updated, all these things. So less books, right? But now we're doing away with Fizzbands, which we all love. So I'm now going to have to go to Fizzbands anyway.
Yeah, not necessarily doing away with Fizzbands, but making it so that the cool options that we wanted. I would have been happy if they had just been like, hey, here's your metallic and chromatic options from Fizzbands. It's like, oh, they're not even that long. Just like, hey, here's your Dragonborn options from there. And now this isn't official, so we can give that feedback if we want. Like, hey, give us the Dragonborn from Fizzbands.
100%.
And I'll probably do that on September 1st. Like, hey, we want this. We want the crit rules. We want these are the kinds of things we want to see. And hopefully they take the advice because, again, this is all playtest material.
Yeah, also at this time, none of the features from Xanathar's Guide to Everything or Tasha's are even referenced here. And that's included in the spell lists. So I'm tentatively nervous that they're going to be releasing, the Player's Handbook 2.0 for one D&D, but they're going to leave out all those features from before and say, "Ooh, give me more money for the player expansion pack where we give you those options back."
Yeah, we don't actually know. And what I do want to say is I really want to talk about the spell list because I found out some stuff about them. So we're running super long on this episode already. Can we get to that really quick and talk about the rest of it in the post show?
Sure.
Okay. So spell list wise, guys, we did get some changes to the spell list. We got some changes to inspiration too, which are meh, whatever. It's a little more. You're able to get more inspiration, which is fine. It's more of a game mechanic as opposed to like more of a reward. But it's not official. We'll talk about it later. I have some opinions on it that I'd like to bring up in an episode later, maybe an episode based on inspiration or something like that.
Sure.
But as far as the spell lists go, they've been broken up into 3 categories: one for arcane, one for divine, and one for primeval. Correct?
I think it was primitive.
Primitive.
Primal.
So, primal.
Oh, primal.
So basically, that's nature magic, divine magic, and like arcane wizard magic. And the way it's looking is where instead of having all these separated spell lists, it's more like they're compiling them all. So like you can choose from, like they'll be in categories of one of these 3, and you're choosing from those specific spell lists. Is the way it's kind of looking right now. So the way I'm thinking it is we might end up like having our classes more compiled with, hey, you have paladins and clerics and whatever, any divine being can choose from the divine spell list.
So as far as I'm seeing here, it seems like there are going to be spells listed in the class features as well, though, because there are some notable exceptions. For example, Eldritch Blast, not even on here. I think that's going to be a Warlock class feature.
I think it'll be a Warlock class feature as well. So yeah, I like it and I dislike it, honestly. I like it for the fact that, okay, we have one list. We know that sorcerers and wizards and whatnot can choose from this spell list. Maybe you choose a certain subclass that gives you access to another spell list, like you get to choose one spell from the divine spell list of this level, stuff like that. I'm into it. It makes it easier for me to like wrap my brain around it. I'm just curious of how that works with wizard now. Are these schools of magic too, or are there still schools of magic involved?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I assume there probably will be.
I hate schools of magic.
You hate them?
Yeah, we can talk about it again later or something. I talked to Drew about it a little bit already. I hate the schools of magic.
Oh, no, I love schools of magic. I think that's it's a great way to combine, like, game mechanics and lore. But anyway, we'll talk about it later. Just the one final thought about the spell lists are notably bards and artificers are included in the arcane spell list, even though they're both considered like healing classes. They both have access to cure wounds and things like that. So I'm curious how I assume those features will remain, but be included in the class, and in some fashion. We might even see at the, under the spell casting feature for each class, maybe there's an additional spell list that they can pull from, something like that.
Yeah, maybe they can choose from 2 of the spell lists. I mean, they don't. I don't know.
We'll see.
But I agree. I do think those are arcane classes in my head.
Oh, 100%. But then you just have to say, well, is Cure Wounds an arcane spell then? Because it needs to be there.
Right.
And Healing Word needs to be something a bard can do.
Yeah.
I just hope that we are not pulling from a single spell list. I hate the idea that all these classes have the exact same access to the exact same spells, because all you're going to see is the same spells over and over and over.
There will definitely be some restriction. And maybe we'll see some reworks for some original spells too. We don't know exactly what's going to be in the player's handbook. We might get an Earth Arcana in 2 months that's, hey, we're making these changes to some of these spells so that way they can be more distinct or powerful. Because, almost every wizard has Fireball, right? There's not really a secondary option except Lightning Bolt, and Fireball still, I would say, is better than Lightning Bolt. So, maybe we'll see some cool reworks and stuff like that. Anyways, this has been our discussion on 1D&D, kind of our thoughts on what we got in the Unearthed Arcana, as well as just the typical information that we got in the 1D&D trailer release video. If you liked what you heard today, you can find us over on patreon.com/TableTalk Friday, where there are many different tiers and a post show, a Patreon exclusive post show we're going to be recording right after this. If you want to find us on social media, you can find us at TableTalk Friday on TikTok, on Twitter, on YouTube. We're all over the place. And if you want to write into the show, you can find us at tabletalkfriday@gmail.com. But with that, can I have the one take me out?
Whoa. I'm so glad to be here, guys. It's me, Keanu Reeves, playing Neo from The Matrix. And I'm really psyched that you guys are enjoying D&D and my new edition of D&D for the one D&D, coming soon to Table Talk Friday, a D&D podcast. You have a good night. I love you.